Over to East Palestine, Ohio, where residents are facing health concerns 3 weeks after the catastrophic derailment of a train carrying toxic chemicals. NBC News reporting that several people have already been diagnosed with ailments related to chemical exposure, including bronchitis. I want to bring in NBC's Jesse Kirsch, who's in East Palestine. This thing, Jesse, has been ongoing. You've been there really since the start of it. And a lot of folks understandably worried, not just about the effects they're feeling today and tomorrow, but the effects that could come in weeks and months from now. I know that there was a town hall last night. What did folks say?
Yeah, and Yasmin, I actually was not here right when this happened, but our team has been. But just to underscore the ongoing health effects that people are feeling, it's now been about 3 weeks. We're actually past the 3-week mark since this derailment and the beginning of the concern over these toxic materials pouring out of that train. And people are still telling us about their health concerns. So even for people who are first coming to this community now, they're still going to be hearing about people who are dealing with things like, they say, bronchitis, people who say their eyes are burning, have a hoarse throat. So those are the kinds of things that are still an issue in this community. And last night there was a town hall with famed environmental activist Erin Brockovich. She's helping lead one of the legal efforts against the railroad, Norfolk Southern. The railroad tells us it cannot comment on those matters of litigation. But Brockovich's message in part to this community is pretty simple. Trust your gut. They're saying, regardless of what you're hearing from officials or from the railroad about what the water and air quality is now, what it might be down the road, trust how you're feeling and monitor your symptoms. And that's something that we've also heard as well. They want people to be writing down what they're feeling, keeping a record of that, keeping a journal. Obviously, this is clearly about building a legal case down the road.
And then there is the criticism, Jesse, of the Biden administration and their response to all this. I know the president himself has not been there as of yet. Secretary Buttigieg there, though, a couple of days ago, being criticized on the ground in his appearance. What are they saying?
Yeah, our producer, Will, a short time ago spoke with a resident here, asked about the president saying that he has no plan to come visit East Palestine. And the resident basically said he doesn't care one way or the other as long as the resources this community needs get here. We know that the EPA is on the ground. We're also told FEMA and the CDC are on the ground. We're supposed to be speaking with the CDC shortly. The CDC is now involved with going door by door and trying to get an assessment of what people are feeling and see what they can do with that moving forward. So the federal government is here, and the president has been pretty forceful in saying they've been here since pretty much the very beginning. Here's part of what the president said about this.
We were there 2 hours after the train went down. 2 hours. I've spoken with every single major figure in both Pennsylvania and in Ohio. And so the idea that we're not engaged is just simply not there. I'm keeping very close tabs on it. We're doing all we can.
Again, though, the president says he has no plans as of now to visit this community. His predecessor, former President Donald Trump, was here earlier in the week, as were the EPA administrator from the Biden administration, as well as Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. So this community has been in the middle of a bit of a political football match. But again, as one resident put it to us, we just need the resources.
Yeah,
Yasmin.
and folks understandably worried about their health and well-being. And we get it. Jesse Kirsch.